Welcome to this text evidence session where I'll explore how to identify and effectively use text evidence to answer reading comprehension questions. My focus today will be on reading passages and questions that simulate the STAAR test. I will be using Easel by TPT, an online tool that's interactive, similar to the testing platform, and a notes page to demonstrate the STAAR reading strategy online. To aid your learning, free resources will be linked in the description. By following these strategies, you'll be better prepared to tackle the online STAAR test and sharpen your test prep skills. So let's begin. The first step in the STAAR reading strategy is to scan the questions to see if they're whole about the entire text or about part of the text. Part A, what can the reader conclude about the gardener? So here we're going to be thinking about an inference about the gardener. So we're going to be looking back at specific text about them throughout the passage. So that one's going to be a whole. And then which detail from the text supports the answer in part A? Well, we're going to do those together, but that's actually a part question because we're going to go back and look at specific sentences. Next, we're going to target the text and read all the text carefully. The garden. Once there lived a king whose palace was surrounded by a garden. But though the gardeners were many and the soil was good, this garden produced not a single flower or fruit. The king was sad about it when a wise old man approached him. Old man, your gardeners do not understand their business. What can you expect of men whose fathers were shoemakers and carpenters? How would they have learned to tend your garden? King, you are quite right. Old man, therefore you should send for a gardener whose father and grandfather have been gardeners before him. Very soon your garden will be full of green grass and beautiful flowers. You will enjoy its delicious fruit. The king turned to his assistant. King, send a message to every town and village in the area to look for a gardener whose ancestors have been gardeners. So we've done that step. Let's move on to analyze, fiction or nonfiction. So this is a fiction story about this king and his garden. And it almost seems a little bit like it could be a fable, like it's trying to teach a lesson, but this is just part of the text. So we'll move on to the next step, which is actively read again here and take notes. And since it's fiction, we're going to think about setting, character, problem, solution. Once there lived a king whose palace was surrounded by a garden. But though the gardeners were many and the soil was good, this garden produced not a single flower or fruit. The king was sad about it when a wise old man approached him. Old man, your gardeners do not understand their business. What can you expect of men whose fathers were shoemakers and carpenters? How would they have learned to tend your garden? King, you are quite right. Old man, therefore you should send for a gardener whose father and grandfather have been gardeners before him. Very soon your garden will be full of green grass and beautiful flowers. You will enjoy its delicious fruit. The king turned to his assistant. Send a message to every town and village in the area to look for a gardener whose ancestors have been gardeners. So the setting here is this garden in the palace, and the characters are the king and the old man. The problem is that the garden is not growing. And the solution is brought to the king's attention by the old man that he needs to send for gardeners who have ancestors who were gardeners. And now we're going to respond to the question. So the important point here is to go back and find the answer within the text. So this is where we're going to start to look at text evidence. Now, the notes here are to help us think a little bit more deeply about the passage before we dive into the questions. And online, you will be able to highlight. And so this is a nice feature to specifically focus on text evidence. Go ahead and pause the video so you can answer questions part A and part B on your own. Play the video to see how you did. So this first question is, what can the reader conclude about the gardener? So we're trying to make an inference and seeing which of these is supported by the text. So they never learned about plants. So let's look back and see if it talks about plants. So the gardeners, and it says the gardeners do not understand their business. Their fathers were shoemakers and carpenters. So we can infer here that they didn't specifically learn about gardeners. So that's a possible answer. Now let's look at B. They will learn and get better. So let's see if it talks about that. Well, it does talk about if you send for a new gardener that has ancestors for gardeners. So it doesn't actually address anywhere in here that the current gardeners will learn anymore. So that question is incorrect. So we're going to mark it off. Let's look at C. They do not like the king. Well, it doesn't actually address the gardeners and any of their feelings in here. So we can go ahead and cross that one off. And let's look at D. They will help the new gardener. So it looks like we're looking for a new gardener here, not to teach the old gardeners. So that one is incorrect. So the best answer choice here is going to be A, that they never learned about plants. And so the proof is kind of in this part here. So now we're going to go to part B and see if our text evidence is going to support this answer. So which detail from the text supports the answer in part A? Your gardeners do not understand their business. Okay, well, that is possible because we did say that that does tie back to them not learning. Let's look at the next one. B, what can you expect of men whose fathers were shoemakers and carpenters? Well, it does talk about the shoemakers and carpenters, so we can kind of connect that back. All right, let's look at C. How would they have learned to tend their garden? Okay, well, this one more specifically addresses the fact that this one is talking about learning. And so it says that how would they have learned? So meaning they did not learn to tend the garden. So this one ties back and is direct proof for A. So the best answer here is C. Let's work on another example. We'll begin again by scanning the questions. What can the reader conclude about Brigida? Select two correct answers. So we need to be focusing on Brigida and her character. So that's going to be a whole question. Select the sentence that best supports the conclusion that recess is good for your health. So this one is going to be a part, and we're going to go back and have to look at exact sentences in the text. Now let's target the text. Dear school board members, recess time at school is very important for kids. It gives them a break and time with friends. Recess helps students develop important skills like cooperation. Studies have shown that recess can also help improve focus and attention. It also has been found that having more recess can improve physical activity. With all these benefits, it's easy to see why schools should add more recess time. Sincerely, Brigida, fifth grade student. So here we can see that this is kind of nonfiction-esque. It's a letter that this student wrote to the school board asking for more recess. So as we're reading, we're going to think about who, what, when, where, and why. Dear school board members, recess time at school is very important for kids. It gives them a break and time with friends. Recess helps children develop important skills like cooperation. Studies have shown that recess can also help improve focus and attention. It's also been found that having more recess can improve physical activity. With all these benefits, it's easy to see why schools should add more recess time. Sincerely, Brigida, fifth grade student. So here, who is Brigida? What? And she's asking for more recess. When isn't really relevant here. Where? And this is at school. and why? And she seems to be claiming that it's better for your health. And she lists several benefits as to why recess is better. All right, let's respond to the question. So go ahead and pause the video and answer both questions and then play to see how you did. First question, what can the reader conclude about Brigida? Select 2 correct answers. So let's look at part A here. She does not like recess. Well, she's asking for more time, so that does not seem like an accurate conclusion. She recently changed her mind about recess. Well, she seems to be pretty focused throughout, so I wouldn't say that's relevant. She wants more recess time. Okay, that seems to make sense because she specifically says in here that there's these benefits and that we need to add more recess time. So that seems possible here. D, she thinks she should make the decision. Well, she is asking for more recess from the school board, but I think she knows that it's the school board who's doing the decision and she doesn't think it's her decision. So we're going to cross that off. And then let's look at E. She believes recess has many benefits. Well, here she talks about how it's going to help skills like cooperation, it can improve focus and attention, and it can improve physical activity. So this also makes sense. So here we are looking for 2 answers. So the correct answer is going to be C and E. All right, let's look at the next part. Select the sentence that best supports the conclusion that recess is good for your health. All right, so let's look back, and I'm going to stay in this blue color here because that's kind of what this answer was looking at, was benefits, or what is good for your health. So as she reads through here, she talks about how it's important for kids to have a break time with their friends. It helps them improve skills like cooperation, focus, attention, their physical activity, and that there's a lot of benefits to this more. So let's see which of these best addresses that. So recess helps children develop important skills like cooperation. Okay, that does support. Studies have shown that recess can improve focus and attention. Okay, it can do that. It's also been found to have that having recess can improve physical activity. Okay, so all of these are improvements. So we need to focus on exactly what this question is asking. It's saying not just that recess is good, it's saying that it's good for your health. So which of these have to do with health? If we look back at A, cooperation, it's a good thing, but it's not health. So we're going to cross that off. B is focus and attention, which is good for school, but that's not your health. And here C is talking about physical activity. Well, that does directly tie back to health. So in this case, C is the best answer. So you can see here how these answers can be kind of tricky. And so you got to really dive in and look closely at the question to see which is the best answer. Now, with careful practice of taking advantage of what the text is actually telling you, you can become informed and confident about your answer choices. With this video guide and the helpful links in the description, you have a great starting point to familiarize yourself with this process of finding text evidence. All that's left for you to do is to start applying your skills today.